Welcome back to JK McLeod. Today I am working on a Wright GS-4520, also known as the Super Rebel. I believe it's 1957-58. Now this is a governed carburetor on here. And this is the governing mechanism. As it spins, these little arms, I can't do it, so I can do it with one hand. These little arms come up as it spins and moves this little vane back and forth. Faster it spins, more it pushes. And here, instead of governing the carb itself by limiting the throttle, it's sort of like, I would assume, a damper in there. So it kind of puts on the choke a little bit. And so it stops it from over revving. And if you notice, the high speed jet is here. But on the inside, there's no way to access, is it? So, yeah, I guess what the factory has set, thou shalt not screw around with. But get it going. And turn it around. Pretty good example. Pulled off the flywheel. Points were all dirtied up, full of little white ash. Gapped them to 20, put the flywheel back on, and lo and behold, we got spark. Now, someone had worked this before, and they had taken off the wire for the kill switch, which is in the trigger. So I'm going to pop the flywheel back on and see if the actual kill switch and the trigger works before I button it all back together again. And we're still working on this Wright 4520, also known as a Super Rebel. It's time to tackle the carburetor. Thankfully, it's all open. It's like the ease of work on is incredible on this one. Yeah, undo these two nuts, pull the carb off, and we'll give it a check. Got a what we call it, a HL. That's just, kits are pretty plentiful. I was hoping it didn't have the Carter. I usually put the Carter ND carbs on there on some of the models. And rebuild kits are a lot harder to get. Well, let me pop this off, and then we'll get started with it. Okay, let's open up this HL and see what we get. Yeah, this gal's been sitting a while. The gas is just about in the state of varnish. Nothing like the smell of bad gas. Yep. Oh, I can hear it. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, a bit of varnish in there. Still in liquid state, so there might be hope. Oh yeah, it smells wonderful. This last screw out of here. gasket. No, it's still semi-pliable. Okay, that's not too bad. That should come right out. There you go. Trip into the bad gas. Oh, yeah, that was pretty tough. And totally petrified. Alright, well that's not too bad. I mean, it's coming through the fuel inlet. Yeah. Take it apart the rest of the way. Alrighty. It's kind of strange how the low and the high. What is that? You know, the way the cover fits on. It covers both screws. Both the low and the high, there's no adjustment once you have this little cover on. Because they really don't want you to play with it. It's no spring chicken. You're going to have to adjust these things sooner or later. Spring. Alright, it'll come right out. It's fairly clean. Yeah, we'll give this a good clean, see what we get. I'll pull out these screws. Let's see what this looks like beneath here. All nice and crispy. Not too bad. See, a little bit of varnish, a little stinky gas. And of course, this is not the sound you want to hear. Alright, when I get this all cleaned up, I'll break out the kit, and then we can put it all back together again. Okay, got it all cleaned up. Time for reassembly. See, that little arm needs to be level here, or maybe slightly above. Usually I could get like a cheat a little bit. Yeah, that's one half. Another half. And back together. Yeah, I think that screw's gonna be a problem. Yeah, I generally don't like even the plastic ones. I don't like to mess with them. There we go. Yeah. Even the metal ones, they never quite seal, so I can get away without playing with it. It's not leaking. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. snug down. Okay, and there we are. HL. Now I brought, whenever I cleaned these, the high and the low, I brought them back to where they were. This was, the high side was about a turn and a quarter, and the low side was, I don't know, roughly the same, maybe just a hair more, maybe like a turn and a half. We'll use that as a good starting point. Okay, let me grab the old pressure tester. Let's see if we actually did this right. Drum roll, please. Okay, not bad. Pop off was about 10. And holding at about 6. And a slow turn down. Stopping at about 4 pounds. Give it an extra slug. Yeah, it's about right. Stops about 4.5 pounds, just kind of hangs there. Once I run fuel through it, the seals will expand. It'll seal a little better. Yeah, but I think we got it. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to play with this little turret. Where the carb sits, there's hardly any clearance between here and the deck. I'm going to have to route the hose a little wider so I can actually get a hose on there. Pop it off. See what we get again. It's all trial and error. There we go, much better. Had to change the direction of the turret a little bit. That's where it doesn't bind up. Also would straighten out this little cable for the throttle. Take up all the slack out of it. This way, when you get full throttle, it opens completely. There we go. That's off, on, and full throttle. Make sure it returns properly. So we put the tank on. I'll just cut this to size. This way, they had it routed beneath here before, coming through this way. Surprised it didn't cut through the fuel line. And this is a little bit more gooder, neater. And now we'll clean out the tank because, well, it's full of stinky gas. And we'll get this all back together again. Recap on the Wright saw, 4520. Got it pretty decent, but I guess about 80% there. Runs well, but I think there may be a governor problem. Little governor, there's an arm that pushes, I guess, a little lever on the inside of that little elbow, and it's supposed to open up and close a small butterfly in there. Now, when I had the carb off, I noticed that the butterfly itself there was a considerable amount of motion, even no matter which way I turned that little lever arm. And it's supposed to, I guess, choke off the engine when the RPMs get too high. But that butterfly was pretty much moving on its own. So I think that may be the maybe the crux of the problem. But overall, I think it's working well. I may have to, I guess, clean up the carb a little bit more. And I'm kind of a perfectionist on these things. It has to run right. They may have diagnosed the carburetor problem, the damper. I got a hold of an IPL, an owner's manual. It says that this rod here for the governor should be in the top hole, and that you use this spring to adjust the speed of the engine. The further up the rung you do it, the faster the engine speed goes. So there's a small cotter pin in there. I'm going to pull that, put the rod in the back of the right place, and tomorrow, when I don't wake the neighbors, I'll give that a shot. See, it's a little cotter pin right there holding this rod in, and this should be right there. So let me do that. Let's see what we get. Yeah, I think that may have cured the problem. As you can see, all the slack that was there was very sloppy before. Now there's actual pressure holding it down. You can see, let's see, focus there. There we go. See that little, that's the little damper door that opens and closes. But now it's holding in there pretty tight. There's actual pressure. I think that should cure it. I think it got like really sloppy and allowed the door to close when it shouldn't. There we go. And I moved the spring up one more notch just to make sure. And we're putting it back together and see what we get. And there we go. Yeah, just got to figure out that little trigger right there. It's making contact prematurely with the grounding out terminal. I'll pull that apart. Maybe I need to tighten that up a little bit. Overall, running good. Change that governor rod to where it was supposed to be and start it right up, running like a dream. Thanks for watching.